This is Saxon Math for 6th grade. Today we're going to be working on lesson 40. We're going to be doing angles in a triangle, as well as some other angles and some other lines today. There's a lot of information that's going to be in this video. Please go back and rewatch the video or use the pause button a lot to make sure you really understand something before I move on to something else. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Draw this triangle, please, in your notes. It's right here, just a regular triangle. And then what I've done is I've drawn little cutoffs. Like I ripped or I cut off this angle, and I cut off this angle, and I cut off this angle. I know, I'm ripping up a triangle, I'm sorry. If I cut off, and this works for any triangle, if I cut off all 3 angles of a triangle, and I stick them together, so I cut off this angle and I stuck it here, I cut off this top angle and I flipped it over and I stuck it there, and I cut off this angle and I moved it over and I stuck it there. They will all fit together to make a straight line. A straight line, as you know, is 180 degrees. If all 3 angles can go together to make a straight line, that means all angles in a triangle add to equal 180 degrees. That is super useful. Here's why. If they give you a triangle in your problem, and they tell you that one angle is a right angle, and another angle is 30 degrees, we can use this fact to help us solve the last angle. So for instance, if this angle is 90, and this angle is 30, and I don't know this angle, we'll call it x. I know that all 3 angles will add together to equal 180 degrees. Now I can solve. 90 plus 30 makes 120, plus something equals 180. 120 plus 60 makes 180 degrees. Okay, so that's our angles in a triangle. Now let's look at intersecting lines today. Intersecting lines are any 2 lines that are going to cross each other. So here I have one line, and it crosses with the other line. Easy enough. It doesn't matter if they're sideways or straight up and down, they're still intersecting. Here I have one angle, and here I have another angle, and these 2 angles are right next to each other. Do you notice that I colored the angle that touches the other angle? 2 angles that are right next to each other, that are touching each other, are called adjacent angles. Adjacent angles. Adjacent means next to each other. The person you sit next to in class is the person adjacent to you. Look at this. One angle plus the angle next to it makes a straight line. Do you see how it comes all the way back to a straight line? And a straight line, as we reviewed before, is 180 degrees. So one angle plus the angle next to it will make 180. If you look, it will work the same for other angles. If I had this angle plus this angle next to it, together they still make the straight line. They still add to 180. Same with this one. If I have this angle plus this angle next to it, they're still going to add to 180 because they still make a straight line. So when you have intersecting lines, one thing I need you to know is that 2 adjacent angles are going to add to 180 also. All the angles in a triangle add to 180, and 2 adjacent angles in intersecting lines also add to 180. That's useful because if they give you one of these measurements, you can solve the other one. So for example, if they tell you that this angle is 120 degrees, and you want to find what this angle is, you know that 120 plus this angle makes 180. Well, 120 plus 60 makes 180. So this angle, x, must be 60. That's all the math. Now I've got a little bit of rules and vocabulary. So put these off to the side. They go with it, but they're things to know. One thing to know. In intersecting lines, we have what are called opposite angles. Those are the angles that are opposite from each other. So these 2 are opposite angles. These 2 are opposite angles. Opposite angles are the same size. Notice how the red one is little, just like this red one? Notice how this blue one is big, just like this blue one? We just solved for this angle, which is 60. Well, what if we had solved for it this way? Here's 120, and I wanted to find this angle. Well, adjacent angles add to 180. 120 plus 60 would also equal 180, which means this angle would also be 60 degrees. Notice they're the same, which means 60 plus what would equal 180? 60 plus 120. This will also be 120. Opposite angles are the same. In math, when something is the same, we call it congruent. Add to your notes, please. Opposite angles, when we have intersecting lines, are congruent. That means they're the same size and measure. Okay, 2 more vocabulary things. You'll see these words, supplementary and complementary. They're just labels. Supplementary angles are 2 angles, remember we had 2 angles here, that add to 180. Adjacent angles in intersecting lines, those would be a type of supplementary angles. If, for some reason, and we don't have an example of this here, you had 2 angles that added to 90 degrees, we call those complementary angles. They're just labels. Here's how I remember this. C comes before S. So C goes with 90 because it's less. S goes with 180 because it's higher. So that's how I remember that complementary angles add to 90 and supplementary angles add to 180.